Well, I wanted to catch you guys up on where I was. We sawed it out there yesterday evening, got the saw done, and I went into my man cave and started carving. Oh gosh, it was probably around 9 o'clock or something in the evening. I started carving, and I got on what you might call an artistic flow. Some of you guys probably do this too, where you're just into this thing. And the reason that drug me into it, so to speak, you guys, this wood, this butternut is just gorgeous piece of wood to carve. Such a pleasure, to the fact that it was almost addicting and I wanted more, so to speak. This wood was just dragging me into it. And so I was up till around 3:30 in the morning last night, roughing this in. You guys can see I really came a long ways. But over the years of me carving, I know how I am. If it's happening, and if it's happening easy and fast, stay after it. Because on those flow times like that is when some of the best stuff just popped. For instance, here's my original drawing or pattern that I had. Now, I got some stuff that I need to work on this back leg here. And I did take a chip somewhere out of here that it's going to make it a little difficult for me to get the shaft of this spear straightened up. I think I can do it. I mean, there's things that happen along the way. Um, I decided, okay, all the background. Look here how I took the back leg back. I took this back leg back. Uh, I took a drill. You guys might be able to see where I drilled underneath the horse's chin and stuff with a small bit. And I drilled through there to where I could start laying out the reins of the horse and the stuff. Um, the horse is way fat, as you can see. Of course, he's riding it, so the back of this horse is going to be way back. I'm leaving this here either for breechcloth type thing, or it could be a knife in a sheath or something there. So you're at this place right now where you're pre-planning at this point what's going to happen. I finally came around to the deal. This is going to be a shield here I'm leaving some room for a strap on it. And I'm also leaving room for some feathers flying off. Because, to show action on this guy, that's like down here on the tail of the horse. I'm going to have a couple feathers tied to the tail and flowing. And one of them I'm going to leave bridged. That's the reason his leg looks a little odd. In this area, I'm going to leave a feather bridged to hold this tail against his leg there. But the reason I'm bridging some stuff is because I have this grain going this way in this piece, and it makes me a little nervous about this leg and this leg. So I'm at this stage right now, you guys, where I'm going to start figuring out the feathers on this headdress. Let's say one here, one here, one here. But the other thing that I determined last night, I was starting you might notice I haven't even touched the board on the highest spots. Now, this is a point perspective type carving, which means everything that's the closest to us, I'll leave out way high. And then everything that's the furthest away, like back here, the back there, the very back of this spear, and the legs and stuff. So you got to figure out what's the closest to you, what's the furthest away. Now, I got a lot of shaping to do now. I'm kind of looking forward to my carve this evening. We're actually going to bring things like I learned. If you guys watched the Viking video that we did, this is more or less the same thing that I did with that Viking on the horse. Um, and I learned on that piece that I had to do quite a bit of carving on the backside, even though it's a wall hanging. I had to do quite a bit of carving on that backside to actually make the three-dimensional look from the front side. So I'm going to start laying in, like the mane is hanging down on the horse's neck, some stuff like that. I'm going to start most of it when I start laying some of this feathering and stuff in. A lot of times I'll use a small V tool right at first. And I'm still a ways away. I could spend a minute shaping the headdress more. But when I'm first laying in, sometimes I'll take a small V like that. You might be able to see there where I'm laying in these feathers and getting some of this laid out. I plan on, you guys, I plan on leaving some braided hair hanging down. There'll be some medallions. I usually do these medallion things on the side of the headdress on each side in here. This is so light, you guys probably can't even see what I'm drawing there. But I'll do these medallions. I'll lay this whole affair across his headdress there. Well, you guys, woohoo! I mean, another late night carve last night. I was up till 4 o'clock this morning. Just a beautiful piece of butternut. This piece has just really pulled me into it. Every piece you do takes on its own character. So this one is getting kind of stretched out, you might notice. And I got the horse's head pretty big, I would think, for what's going on here. And of course, the legs on the horse is still big. But now I want to tell you guys, a lot of times at this stage in the game is when every piece I do, I will go to the anatomy books. And let's just talk about anatomy books for just a little bit. I was listening to Lady Gaga singing about where she's not in the shallow anymore. She's on the deep end. Watch as I dive in. Well, I was kind of laughing about this piece because that's kind of what's happening. I'm diving into the deep end now. But then again, another show I like is Emerald, the cooking show, where he goes, pow, we're about to put the pow on it, And look how wore out they are, you guys. They are wore out. Look at here. I got pages falling out of them and stuff. This book fell plumb in half. This book, it just wore out crazy, see? And every piece that I've ever done, I'm doing a study of to where the next time I do the piece, or the next time I sing that song, so to speak, it gets a little easier for me every time. I want to tell you about a composition piece, and I think I might have talked about this on the last Viking video or whatever we did, but my buddy Scott, God bless his soul, he's dead now, but he was one of the instructors down at Marble where we teach. And he had this theory called the toothpaste theory. And I think I told you guys about it. In other words, look here how the horse's head's a little big and the horse is stretched out and the guy's a little squatty looking, you know. All right. So the most important thing I can do at this point, and I've talked about this before, but move. At this stage in the game, don't get hung up carving in any one spot very long. Because Scott's toothpaste theory was this. I'm carving on his leg, and I squeeze his leg, and his head pops out. And I squeeze on his head, and his other leg pops out. And so I squeeze on that leg, and this Indian's face blows up. And it's so true on a composition like this. Everything's got to come together. So continue to move. That's one thing I really want to stress with you guys. For instance, I'm running into up here as I've framed in. I hope you guys can see this. I framed in his headdress last night. Now, a couple of things I wish I had not have done, you guys. I should have redrew this and turned the grain up and down. My experience told me that when I was drawing it, but the board didn't fit and I wanted to use the board differently. So I put the grain of the wood this way. Well, look where I got his face now. That grain is right across his face like this. And I had fully intended on showing you guys how to braid hair on this piece. But as I messed with, you can see I started to frame in the hair last night a little bit. I started mapping the feathers off from his shield. This is undeveloped. Here's what I want to tell you guys. When you're working in one area for a little while, and on a composition like this where everything's got to come together, continue to move, because not only does this spear has to straighten out, which is what I'm trying to do here now, I'm straightening out the spear. I started framing his hand, but his hand has to come together at the same time. I wanted to talk about bridging things for a minute too. For instance, with the grain the way it is, I need to leave some bridging for strength. If you guys carve much stone or ever carve stone, your bridging, you learn a lot about bridging there because you have to leave more bridging to hold stuff. But that's like this tail coming down here. With this grain going like this, I'm going to frame a feather laying on this horse's leg here and try to keep this tail up against that leg to where with that grain going like that, things could get broken right off. All right, you might notice right in here where I've left this little piece of wood back in there because this spear, as I carve it down, I'm going to say that spear is going to be just slightly bigger than this pencil through here. Oh, it'll be a little bigger than that because I'll leave it bigger. But I thought, you know, and the lesson here is don't kill off potential early in the game. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You might be carving hair and something's hanging out here. Like here, I don't know for sure what this is, but I don't want to carve it off yet because I've done it so many times. Later on, I'll go, gosh, I wish I'd have kept that. So don't kill any potential off until you're pretty sure of what you're going to do there. So I'm just bringing you up to date, kind of where I'm at. I know I haven't done a lot of carving yet on the piece. I just thought that we'd talk about a couple other things in the mapping in process of what we're doing. His face, let's say. I started to frame it in a little bit last night in there, but I thought, let's talk about now. On the other side of this is where we drew the anatomy or the proportioning the other day. So if you see through that, it's because of we drew on the other side yesterday. I guess it'll be fine. But on this face thing, you guys, on an indent, I'm going to draw, let's just say, a skull or a face. This would be my base for the face. Now, when I'm doing an indent, I know it's not quite symmetrical, but when I'm doing a face, I'll usually lay it out approximately like in 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. Now, I know the drawing books will tell you a million different things. This is just my method. So this brow line, now on our end, and a lot of this is going to be up, his head's up and under his headdress, in the headdress. But this is his eyebrow line here, you guys, up here. And I'll usually draw in the shank of the nose area like this first. Now, as I'm drawing this in, I'm drawing it big. Look here on the wings of the nose. I'm drawing it pretty big, right? And I'm drawing it big because of the first rule of wood carving, or any carving for that matter, is you can take more wood up, but you can't put it back. But now on an indent face, I will pull in on my temples here some, a little bit. And as I pull this in like this, it begins to give me a wider, higher cheekbone area. So the shape a lot of times that I'm after is I'm capturing this high cheekbone here. Then a lot of times I'll pull in under the cheekbone some. We're accentuating these high cheekbones on the indent, basically what we're doing. I'll square this jaw out a little bit, coming down. This, now on almost all these faces, I'll put a chin button down here. Almost everybody has somewhat of this chin button thing going on down here. So this shape is what I'm after, that I just kind of drew. It'll give you more of a, let's call it a rugged Western face. Works good on miners and Indians and, let's say, mountain men and stuff like that. I also will begin to pull these mouth barrel. Now, if you get to looking at people's mouth barrels, you guys, they go in so many different ways. Some people straight down, some people swing out and around. I will usually swing out. And the reason I call this a mouth barrel is, of course, this is where the mouth is going to sit. And on the lower portion, 1/3 of the face here, I will usually put the mouth just above halfway point of this. Let's say this is approximately halfway. The key word here is approximately, you guys. But when I first draw a mouth in, let's go just above halfway. And remember when you were in kindergarten how you used to draw a bird flying like this? That's a good way to start a mouth. And then, of course, eventually the bottom lip will come across, and this will have a cut in the middle of it in there. So then I want to start bringing my eye sockets along, which I will usually come in here a little. And I'm going to draw what you might call some sunglasses on this guy. And these sunglasses are more or less the eye sockets where the eye is going to set in there. And so that I just wanted to show you what you can see. Let's hope you can see. I can tip it down a little bit. That's kind of what I got framed here. But I've also got it framed big, you know. And here's another important thing about when you're framing in a face or something. Always stay big and work away. In other words, don't come in here and cut straight in and kill your potential. Always work away from the face. That way, as you're going in, if you need more room, you have somewhere to go deeper and do more room in there. So I wanted to draw a couple other things since I'm starting to get some of my feathers going here. Since I'm starting to get some of my feathers going, I wanted to draw a feather for you guys. And I'll usually get somewhat of this shape about it. A lot of times I'll have a row of fluffy stuff, let's say in this area right in through here. This will be some fluff, and then I'm going to show the ends of the feathers wrapped in. I think I had showed you on that mask yesterday where I'll have those in there. But so this feather will end up with this wrap, and then I'll actually wrap some threads because what they used to do is use a piece of leather or something and wrap the end of it, which held it to the headdress in there. Now, try to stay away from dead straight lines, you guys. Keep things moving. Now, I've done feathers several ways. You can do every little line on the feather. Let me just grab this. Let's say this bronze up here, since he's got some feathers. Let's grab this for a second and look at it. Oops, hate it when that happens. I first laid these feathers in. Now this was bronze, was pulled off from an original wood carving. And see how I'm hit and missing on the feathering on there. Now, some feathers, I'll do every little line on the feathers. But for instance, this in a bronze, you need more of a sculptural approach. And that means not as much V-tooling or harsh depths. Because if you're going to pull a mold off from stuff, you don't want a lot of deep grooves and stuff in there. So this is one way to lay in a feather. And notice the niches that I've got in the feathers here. Let's finish our drawing. So, and you can do this two ways. In other words, instead of just every little line like this, every little line, you can notice how I meander them a little here. You can do a hit miss, and then in the edges of feather, you can do a niche in and a niche and a niche. Now, a few looks real good, but too many is too many. So salt and pepper to taste, so to speak. All right, and so this is kind of what I'll end up doing on this one. I may run a U-gouge first, throw some stuff in, then come back with a V-tool on the feathers. What will help, see my horse is stretched out so long here, which not only will I skinny him out, but I will begin to skinny the legs out. And I have so many drawing books and stuff. Look here at the shape of the legs. So I'll begin to skinny the legs and lay my muscles in. I actually plan on shortening. Now, see, his neck, the horse's neck's beginning to look long. So sometimes if you can't tell them the truth, you got to baffle them with a little BS. And that means if I start putting some mane, some hair in here, I may even let some of it hang out underneath here, you know, or something, a couple places. Putting something in there is going to help shorten the head and the neck. The other thing is I'm going to take off almost a full 1/4 inch off the front of this face, and I'm going to skinny quite a bit up. Now, if you guys have been following, when I done, let's say the video about the horse head in the driftwood, I talked about the horse head quite a bit. But now what I will do here is begin to get my eye mound going next. I got a lot of times when I'm drawing to myself, notice how I'm doing these little squiggly lines. I'll draw, and this is a good stage to map and draw and talk about stuff. I will redraw the bone structure. When I teach realistic human anatomy, which is what I used to teach when I was teaching you guys, the skeleton is very important. And in these drawing books, it shows you the skeletal layout of the bones. Well, that's what I will get drawn in here, where each bone comes down to, and to the knee, and back to here, and then the hooves. So I'm going to spend some time studying that. But I just want to catch you guys up that I'm going to start framing for my nostril height. I'm going to get my jawbone, let's call it a mask bone. It's actually the zygomatic arch, I believe it's called here on the humans, but the horse almost has the same bone structure in there. Now, if I shorten this roundness up here on his jaw, and then I shorten his nose in, I'm going to begin to help shorten this. You guys might notice that I got the indent on the horse way back in there, and that started back in the drawing. I had him, I'm not going to say too far back, because he's leaning forwards and this horse is running. So to try to get this effect in there. The other thing I'm going to mess with is to get his arms. Both his arms are way big, you can see. So to help shorten things up, I'm going to shorten his fist on the reins here. I'm going to shorten his arm forward here a little bit. The most important thing I can say at this point is if you're doing a piece like this, move, move, move. Now, I want to try to do the best job I can on this, but I don't really plan on taking it to competition. And if I did, trust me, I would be in that anatomy book. I would be getting every little thing on there and really doing quite the job. Let me say this about competing, and I said going to a show or something. You guys, it was once said, I think competition is a great thing, and I'll tell you why. It was once said, I read it somewhere, it said, let us not compete, or let us compete, that one might lose and the other win, but let us compete that both might rise to greater levels of perfection on your pieces. And so in a way, to get around other carvers, to see their pieces, really will help you. You're going to go home after seeing somebody's pieces and just blow you away. And I just wanted to keep you up to date on how this piece is coming along. And I know I'm not doing a lot of carving on this particular piece in front of the camera, but I think just seeing the creative process and me telling you, I'm having problems with it just like everybody else would have. Keep moving. Move, 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 move. We'll talk to you guys later.